Palo Alto next generation firewall. Okay, the PAN OS is what we will be focusing on. So a little bit about background about myself. I have close to 15 years of experience, primarily in enterprise security, cybersecurity, done implementations. I've been doing trainings for quite a few years now. I have experience across most common vendors. Okay, so Palo, Fortinet, Checkpoint, Sophos, Cisco, example. So I've worked on most of the products, most of the security solutions that these vendors have to offer. Okay. So our focus is going to be on Palo Alto for this course. So during the session, feel free to ask any question. Okay, you can put your question in the chat window as well. Okay, so I'm monitoring that. So you can ask any question with respect to Palo Alto, or maybe the course here, or maybe anything else if you need, if there's something that you would like to discuss. Okay, so I have a little slide deck that I would like to go through just to cover some of the aspects of what we will be covering within the course, within the content. So let me just share my screen. And let me know if everyone can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Hey, let me. It's not coming to the right window. Just a second. Just fix the monitor. And guys, please keep yourselves on mute, everyone. Okay, so that not disturbing everyone. Okay, so let's try this again. And we'll go into presentation. All right, so this is going to be the Palo Alto Networks Next Generation Firewall, PAN OS. Do we have folks here who already have experience with Palo Alto, have experience with firewalls, Next Generation Firewall, not Palo, maybe any other vendor out there, or everyone is new to the firewall scene, everyone is new to the security scene?
Hi, my name is Tushar Azarnis. I have experience in a FortiGate firewall.
Okay, great. Anyone else with any experience with respect to firewalls or security, for example?
Yeah, I do the implementation in the Palo Alto. So I'm just seeking for the next next level troubleshooting and the some add-on features. So I don't know about that. So I just want to cover up on that.
Okay.
Not from my end, Arun.
Okay. All right. So I would typically, so looking at the responses, I would typically say about 95% of you are either new to security or either new to firewall or new to Palo Alto. Okay. I just had a couple of responses from folks who have experience, so I would probably say about 95% of you are probably new to the whole firewall stuff and everything. Okay. Now, this training will help you get the knowledge if you're just looking to get the knowledge around the firewall, around Palo Alto. If you're looking to do any certifications from Palo, it will help you to do that as well. And obviously, it will help you to prepare for any interviews or anything if you are looking to appear for any technical interviews from Palo's perspective. Okay. So the training is, or typically the course or the certification with respect to, so this training will help you prepare for Palo's associate or the beginner level certification, which is the PCNSA. It will help you prepare for PCNSE, which is the Network Security Engineer certification, which is the next level above the PCNSA. And Palo Alto has changed their certifications. Okay, so PCNSA, PCNSE will become legacy certifications, and now to replace them, Palo has next generation firewall certificate. Okay, which is basically the same thing what PCNSA, PCNSE used to cover, but they have kind of rebranded their certifications, added a few other certifications under their certification portfolio. Okay, so I'll show you that as well. Just give you some more information about those certifications as well. Okay, so the training primarily focuses on the foundation aspect. Again, I'm anticipating a lot of you don't have any experience with firewalls, don't really know. I mean, heard about firewalls, but you really don't know what firewalls really are, or what do they really do, why do you implement them, and then you don't really have much knowledge around Palo Alto. Okay, so this is to give you foundational knowledge as well as advanced knowledge of PAN-OS as well as the Palo Alto Network Next Generation Firewall. Okay, so I've also added the roles, which basically this training is really suited for. So if you are a network security engineer, a network administrator, maybe network security architect, for example, a solution engineer, solution architect, maybe as part of a SOC team, okay, you may be part of network support, L1, L2. It's really suited for everyone, okay? So I've added a bit of course outline here, what you can expect from the course. There are some things which you might not see in here, okay? But we will still be covering, so we'll be covering a lot more to what you just see here, okay? So from a course outline perspective, we will be talking about, obviously, we'll discuss firewalls, what really firewalls are, what next generation firewalls are, and then how Palo Alto comes, okay? What is the architecture behind Palo's firewalls? Obviously, there is lab to it, okay? It's mostly going to be a very hands-on kind of a training, okay? So the initial sessions, maybe a couple of them, I'll talk about some of the theoretical concepts, okay? Some general things with respect to security, some very general security concepts, which everyone should know, irrespective of what vendor or what product you are working in, okay? So let's just say from a cybersecurity perspective, everyone should know about them, so that when you're reading documentations, maybe you're looking at some logs and everything, and you see those terms and everything being used, you're basically aware what those terms really mean. Okay, so a couple of initial sessions is going to be purely theoretical, but then after that, it's primarily going to be a very hands-on kind of a course. Okay, so we'll be going over the lab overview. We'll be setting up the topology. I'll show you the topology today as well. That same topology will be available for everyone to do their own hands-on, okay, in their own time. And if anyone would like to set up the topology on their own servers, maybe if you have a home server or something that you would like to set up the topology there, I can give you some tips. I can help you set that up as well. Okay. We'll be looking up how to set up, do day zero config, or do bootstrapping, or do the initial configuration on a Palo Alto firewall. We'll be going over some of the very important basic settings or initial firewall configurations that you would need to do. How do you manage firewall configurations? Things like what is the difference between doing snapshot versus doing a candidate configuration? Okay, where are those configurations saved? How does the firewall load up those configurations and all of that good stuff? Okay, so we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at the various interfaces that are there in Palo Alto Firewall. So you'll be able to understand where you would use an L3 interface, where you would use maybe a tunnel interface, where you would use maybe, let's say, a virtual wire sort of an interface configuration. Okay, so we'll be looking at those. Another aspect that will be covered is managing the administrator accounts within the firewall. Okay, so there's a lot of that's going on within the Palo Alto Firewall. Okay, so how do you manage it? How do you create various administrator accounts? So we will be integrating Active Directory, for example. Okay, and making use of that Active Directory integration. We'll be seeing that, and then we'll be able to see how we can make use of Active Directory within a lot of different things that that are there within the Palo Firewall. Implementing security zones. Okay, so we'll be talking in much more details what zone-based firewalls are. Okay, how do zone-based firewalls work? And then we'll see how do you implement those zones within the firewall. Okay, the key aspect of the firewalls is to do access control, to create security policies or access policies. Okay, so we'll be looking at how do you implement that? How do you implement routing? Okay, how does routing work? How does path monitoring and route monitoring work within the Palo Firewall? How does NAT work? Okay, so NAT is very important. It's very different within the Palo Alto Firewall as well. Okay, so we'll be looking at that. We will then look at some of these advanced features here. Okay, application ID, content ID, for example. Okay, which app ID is kind of part of URL filtering, wildfire, user ID. Some of the other features as well, vulnerability protection. IPS, how do you create those policies? How do you apply those policies? Okay, how do you do file control? How do you do data filtering? So lots of advanced topics that we'll be able to see and actually do hands-on for. Okay. Another important aspect for the next generation firewalls is to be able to do TLS decryption or SSL decryption, as they like to call it. Okay, so I'll help you understand what TLS is, how does it work, and how does firewall comes in to break the TLS protocol to actually be able to see and inspect the network traffic better. Okay, some of the topics that I don't have listed here because I ran out of space. High availability. Okay, so we'll be able to. So I'll help you understand how within Palo Alto, how do we do high availability? How we can do an active-passive pair? How we can do an active-active pair? Okay, how does that work? And then another important concept is going to be that we'll cover is VPNs. Okay, how does site-to-site VPNs work? How does IPsec work? Where does IKE come in? How does the key exchange work? How tunnels are set up? What would you do from a configuration perspective if you're trying to implement VPN between two Palo Alto firewalls, or if there is a Palo Alto firewall doing a VPN against a third-party vendor? Okay, so what would be the difference between those configurations? So we'll be taking a look at that. We'll also look at remote access VPN. Okay, I'll discuss and go over things with respect to Global Protect, for example. Right? And then we will be finishing off with, or not really finishing off, but the last point that I have added, the monitoring, reporting, and troubleshooting methodology. So there is no separate section to this. Okay, so as we go through the firewall, as we go through all of these different features that I've mentioned, some of the topics that I've called out, okay, there is inherent monitoring, inherent troubleshooting linked to all of them. Okay, so as we keep going through these features, I'll be going over things like best practices, how do you troubleshoot, and when we are going to do the hands-on, when we are going to do the labs. Okay, so the labs are not set up. Okay, so you would be setting it up from scratch. I'll be setting up from scratch during our training. Okay, so but as we are setting up the lab, there would be a lot of things that will not work. Okay, so you'll be able to see how we will be troubleshooting those. Okay, that's where the troubleshooting methodology really will come in. Okay, so that's going to be our course content. Okay, that's going to be our course outline. Now, there might be some things which you might be interested in.
Ask one thing regarding the panorama.
Yes.
I'm not including this course.
So I can go over Panorama, but the problem with Panorama is it does not work without license. Okay. So even if I give you Panorama, you won't be able to do anything with it without license. And Panorama licensing is very, very expensive. Right?
Okay.
So within this course, yeah.
Sir, I have one question. Is it going to be English batch of Palo Alto Firewall?
Yes.
Okay,
It's going to be. Yes. So regarding that licensing thing, when you are doing these labs, you will be doing hands-on on evaluation Palo Alto virtual firewall. Okay. Now that evaluation firewall is not licensed. Okay. It is, or it does have evaluation license, but it does not unlock everything. Okay. So there would be some features that you would not be able to do. Okay. So for example, things like wildfire. Any sort of software updates. Okay. Any sort of content update. Global Protect. Okay. These are all licensed features. Okay. Which Palo has kind of hidden behind or locked behind licenses. So you have to pay Palo. But I'll still cover these contents. Okay. I'll still show you within the firewall how you configure them. What are the best practices? So for example, to set up software updates or to set up content updates, there are some recommendations. There are some best practices. I'll cover those. I'll talk about those. I'll talk about Global Protect. I'll show you how you do the configuration. Okay, so you can still do the configuration, but you won't be able to test. Okay, the functionality is not going to work. Okay, so when you're trying to do these labs, okay, keep that in mind. Okay, wherever it is possible, or wherever it is, or there is a feature which is locked down behind license, which mandatorily needs a license, I'll call it out. Okay, but out of these features, you would still be able to do about 80 to 85% of what we'll cover. You will still be able to do hands-on labs for them. Okay, for the 20% or for the 15% that's left for some of these features, okay, you would need to rely on work experience, for example, or maybe pay for licenses. Okay, if you're trying to buy the license for your lab environment. Okay. I'll pause for any questions if anyone has. Any questions? No one has any questions?
No, not from my end. Thank you.
Nothing from.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there any SD-WAN concept in Palo Alto Firewall?
Palo Alto Firewall does have SD-WAN.
Okay.
But I mean, we're not going to cover it because it's not part of security, and SD-WAN is also licensed.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so that's the presentation. That's what I wanted to show, a couple of things with respect to it. Now, Coming to, so this is Palo Alto's certification section. Okay, I'll paste this into the chat window so that if anyone wants to have access to it, you can access this. Okay, so what we are dealing with, or what we would be looking at from Palo Alto certification perspective, etc. It basically is the network security part. Okay, so previously Palo Alto had just PCNSE. Right now they have added other bunch of certificates as well. Okay, so what we are going to deal with is the next generation firewall engineer. Okay, so this certification is what tests your knowledge on PAN OS. Okay, device configuration, integration, etc. Okay, so this is part of their Strata line of products. Okay, so they have Strata, Prisma, etc., etc. Okay, Cortex, right? So I'll talk about them. We'll discuss this when we start with the training in much more detail. Okay. So this is the one that. Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Is there any VPN configuration available in Firewall?
Sorry, didn't get the question. Is there any VPN?
Configurations.
Yes, we'll cover that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be going over, or we'll be discussing about VPNs, site-to-site VPN, remote access VPN. Okay, so we'll be discussing IPsec, for example, IKE, ESP. So some of the topics that we will discuss and configure, obviously.
Okay.
Okay. So on this next generation firewall engineer, so this is the data sheet for it. This gives you a bit more detail about it. You can see it's part of their Strata product line. And this is some of the information that you have about the exam. Okay, so 90 minutes, MCQs, obviously English, and then $250 is the price. Plus, if you are, let's say in India or other places, you would add the GST as well. So this would kind of come out to around 300, 310, $350. Okay, so previously PCNSE used to be $175. Okay, so this is an increase in the price as well from Palo. Okay, but again, we are not discussing the price, but just giving you the information. Okay, so this basically gives you a blueprint. This basically gives you the domain coverage and what all you are expected to know from the exam perspective. Okay, some of the documentations and everything that will be in here. So I'm pasting this in the chat window as well, so that you can keep this handy, go over it if you would want to. Okay, so one major thing that Palo has introduced with this new certification is this automation section. Okay, how you can use APIs, etc. Okay, so I'll show you the API. I'll show you how the API works with the firewall as well. Okay, so that you have it, or you have some information worked through. This PCNSE certification, this is still available. Okay, so you can still give this exam. Okay, so you can see it basically covers the same content that is in the newer exam, but it's just that it does not have, or it didn't used to have the automation thing. Okay, but it mostly is very the same thing. Okay. Questions? Any questions? Anyone?
Yeah, hi, this is Vivek.
Yes.
So out of both certifications like PCNSE and next generation firewall, which certification is better to do?
So see, PCNSE is cheaper. Okay. If you are still able to appear, okay, or by the time we get done with the course and everything, you feel you are ready to give the certification and you can pass the certification, etc. For now, I would still urge you to still do PCNSE. Again, it's cheaper. Okay. Plus, it is covering almost the same thing that the next generation firewall engineer certification is covering as well. Okay. So why really pay more money for the certification, right? So it's what, about $75 more. Okay. So which is good amount of money, right? When Palo completely gets done with this, they completely remove it and you're no longer able to give that certification, then obviously this is going to be the only option that you would have. Okay, makes sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Right. Any other question? Anyone? Okay. This is the topology that we'll be working with. Okay, just nice topology that I have built here. And it is not really a finished topology, so I need to still add a couple of components to it. But for the most part, this is the topology that we will be working with. Okay, and everyone will have individual access to the topology. Okay, when we'll actually start the course, when we'll start the content and everything, the training, we will be setting this topology from scratch. Okay, so all of the components that you see, switches, the router, getting internet access. Okay, then how do you set up the internet access? How do we set up the firewall? How do we set up the LAN environment here, right? How do we set up our DMZ? Okay, so we will be setting up every single component that you see here. Okay, so again, this topology will be available for everyone. You can set it up yourself as well, okay? Or you can set it up on your own server as well if you want. Okay, I can provide you with all the images if you are interested. Okay, so I can show you where you can download the images from, and then you can set it up yourself if you would like to go that route. Else, you would obviously get access to the labs, the racks, and everything you can set up.
Yeah, hi. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so this side, actually, I need to ask one question. Where exactly we are setting this set up this topology? I mean, in which software?
This is an event.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Okay, so you can
Yeah.
use EVNG, you can use GNS3, right? You can use PNet. Okay. If someone has access to, you can also use Cisco CML topology. Okay, so all of these platforms, they are all KVM based. Okay, and they all basically take the same images, the same type of images, the same format of image.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So if, for example, someone has experience with EVNG, they would like to set up on their own PC, their own computer, then you can do that. If someone has experience with GNS3, you can set it up on GNS3. Okay. And like I said, if someone needs any help, needs some tips or anything, I can help. I mean, I basically have experience with all of these platforms. Okay. So if someone is really eager to set it up themselves, then you could as well. Okay, so on the topology, we'll be, like I said, we'll be setting up everything. We will be setting up this DNS server as well. Okay, so we'll be setting up Active Directory here. We will be setting up DNS. So if you don't have experience with doing that, I'll show you how to set that up. Okay, these DMZ servers, we'll make them web servers that we can do some testing. Okay, so I'll show you how you can set up web servers as well. So if any time in the future, if you have to set up your own labs and if you have to set up web servers, you can very quickly set up web servers. Okay, nothing complicated, just a little bit of Linux, but again, you don't really need to be a Linux guy. Okay, I will give you all the commands and everything, just copy paste and it'll be good to go. Okay, so I'll help you as much as possible, get you going and give you as much hands-on experience as possible. All right. Any questions before I move on? With respect to the content topology or anything?
Basically, this all product on the virtual devices, right? Is there any like physical appliance you are going
there are
to?
no physical devices. Nope, no physical devices.
Okay.
Everything is virtual.
I have a doubt.
Yes, go ahead. Two people are speaking.
I'm
just...
not familiar with these types of, I mean, firewall and everything. Can you elaborate if you have a doubt? Can I ask after the class? Is it possible?
Yes, you can ask after the class.
Because I am from the telco side, so I am not much familiar with these devices. I have experience on switches and routers.
Okay.
Means L3 devices. From now I am trying to change my domain into this field.
Okay.
So I'm not much familiar with like web servers like.
That's absolutely fine. If you have L3, L2 experience, firewall is nothing but it is a layer 3 device. It's just that it has security features. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have the background in L2, L3, I would say you have the
I am working in an ISP service provider.
Right.
So it's purely depends upon a routing protocol like BGP.
Correct.
Reminding these are not much familiar in the network. So that's why I'm asking.
Right. So, I mean, I would probably say that you should have no problems in understanding the firewall, really. So as long as you understand how packet forwarding works, how packets flow through the network, okay, how layer 3 works, you should be good. Okay, so I would probably say that you have the foundational knowledge that's needed.
Sure.
Okay, and like I said, during the sessions, we are looking to do the foundational thing as well, and then build on top of that and do the advanced as well. Okay, so this is literally meant for everyone. Okay, but again, you should at least know CCNA level knowledge. Okay, you should at least know what packet flow is. You know, when I say layer 3, layer 4, I say layer 7, you at least know what that is, right? You know IP addressing, right? You know what DHCP is, what ARP is, those sort of things, okay? Right? If I say routing protocol, switching, you should at least know what those things are. Okay, that's really the basic information that you really need. Okay, but so if there is anyone here who does not know that, I would probably, you can still do the training, but you would have a lot of homework that you would need to do. Okay, so I would probably say do CCNA first, at least the knowledge training, and then you should do this. All right, and for everyone else, if you're new to security, new to firewall, but you have the foundational knowledge, Okay, you should be good. All right.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm a L2 network engineer, so I have experience in switching only, but I don't have the routing experience in routing. So
that's fine.
is
I mean,
there any?
So we are not going to go into things like OSPF and ERGRP and BGP. Okay. But when I say routing and switching, you at least know what IP addressing is, right? Why routers are used.
Yeah.
Okay. What a static route is, what a default route is, right? You would at least know those sort of things.
Yeah, basic things have been known, but
correct.
In depth of BGP and OSP,
Right. We are not going to go into all of those. That's not really that's not really the basis for the training. So it's primarily around firewall concepts, firewall features, etc. We will be going over some of the routing concepts. Yes, how does the firewall do the routing of packets? So that is something that I'll discuss. I'll talk about. But I really don't expect you to know in-depth BGP. We're not going to go into route reflectors or federations or those sort of things. Okay, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? So, okay, so we will be starting this the training from tomorrow. Okay, it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, so 3 days in a week. Okay, 2 hours. Okay, so you would have ample amount of time to go back and review the content, do the labs, do the hands-on practice, etc. as well. Okay, so you would have the weekends, okay, and then you'll have Mondays and Wednesdays where you can go back and do the lab. Okay, so we are kind of aiming for about 1.5 months. Okay, so that would be about what, 6 weeks? Okay, so this would be close to around 40 hours of content. Okay, and then I will be creating a Discord server where I'll add everyone, whoever is part of the training, so that if during the week, during the weekend, if there are any questions, any doubts, or anything, you guys can reach out and we can discuss, or you guys can discuss things between yourself as well, if need be. All right. Any questions before I end it?
Yeah, could you please let us know the timing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, timing is going to be the same time that we started today, 9:30 to 11:30.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm saying 2 hours, but some days it might be 2 hours 15 minutes, 2.5 hours. Some days it might be 1.5 hours, 1 hour 45 minutes. So it's going to be like that. But typically, we will aim for that 2-hour window.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. One final ask. Any questions?
Hello?
No, Arun, thank you.
Yes.
Is there any free certification?
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, from Palo Alto, there are no free certifications. Sorry.
Okay. Just like in FortiGate, NSC1, NSC2, NSC3 are free, na? Therefore, I ask.
Yeah, those are free, but they are hardly valuable, right?
Yes, right. Right. Yes,
They
yes. I
they are
understand. I understand. Okay.
they are purely just sales pitch from Fortinet. So very good if someone does not know Fortinet and just wants to understand what the Fortinet product portfolio is. So those 3 certifications are very good for that. But then the real certification value starts at NSE 4, for which you have to
NSC.
pay.
Yes, right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay then. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in today. See you guys starting tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for
Thank
your time.